I think there were a lot of lessons learned during that journey that not just we've gone through. There's a lot of people out there who've gone through the same thing. So, yeah, guys got me all emotional here. Sorry.
Fredette for the lead. Yes! Fredette with the three. Bullseye! What a shot by Fredette!
Crunch time. The boy gave us more trays than
He's got his J back, folks, and the eye of the tiger.
You're tuned in to Built from the Logo with Jimmer Fredette.
Rev it up. I am Spencer Linton. He is Jimmer Fredette, and we are Built from the Logo. Greetings, friends. Nice to have you with us once again for our deep-range conversations about life inside and well beyond the world of sports. Jimmer, it's March, and that means without fail, I will see at least 3 different basketball accounts post Jimmer Fredette March Madness highlights on the daily.
You better get used to this mug in March on social media. That's just how it works, right? You're going to see a lot of Gonzaga clips, a lot of Wofford first round clips in the NCAA tournament. You're going to see me with a little bandage on my chin against Florida when I hit my chin on the floor and had to, glue it together and keep playing. So see a lot of that this month. It's a great time, Spence.
It's part of the deal. It's part of tradition. I just want to know why we don't see more Jimmer highlights against Florida from 2010, from the year before that Sweet 16 run.
People forget about that. They sleep on that little game that we had. That was a big time game. We got the win, 37 in that one, Spence. That was the coming out party for BYU to get to the next to Sweet 16 the next year. So big time stuff right there.
It's the wave to the camera after your and one late in that game that does it for me every time.
My kids loved it. My kids were like, "Hey, Dad, that was great." They were like laughing. Watched it over and over again.
An uplifting moment, to say the least. And our purpose in this podcast is to uplift, educate, and entertain, often combining sport and faith with an array of topics. We center on impactful moments and experiences, decisions that have shaped the lives of Jimmer, myself, and our MVP guests. As always, we're building for something better and doing it together. All-pro offensive lineman Garrett Bowles made us all want to be better, and made us feel better after sharing his incredible story last week.
Yes, he did. The fellow Coloradan, as I like to call him now. We both live in Colorado. He's just an awesome hang, and obviously an incredible football player. Has had a really interesting story, and not afraid to share it. I love being able to chat with him. And he has some real hot takes too off the air. We had some real hot takes. We need to get him back on to talk just like, hey, let's start talking hot takes, because he was very thought out on all of them. He was so fun, and hope you guys enjoy the episode.
If you missed it, it's available on our YouTube channel. Clips are being constantly put out on all of our social media as well. At Jimmer FTL is the place to find it. Okay, we're ready for the opening tip-off. And here is our starting lineup today, featuring a first for Jimmer behind the wheel of a high-performance machine. More on that in a moment. The early tray, as you may have figured out, will take on a heavy March Madness theme by nature of this month and Jimmer's bracket expertise. We're going to talk about the chance that the only undefeated team in college basketball in the regular season may not make the NCAA tournament. What is going on there? Our featured guest played a huge role in arguably the greatest March Madness story ever told. Thurl Bailey, part of that miraculous NC State team in 1983 under the legendary Jim Valvano, joins the show. How his faith in God helped lead him to that title and changed his life forever. Plus open gym and, of course, your bad grammar pet peeve of the week. Loaded show, Jimmer. Big time show, man. I am excited about the pet peeve of the week. Everyone's favorite segment that we have. Thurl, incredible NCAA tournament run, right? Like to do what they did. He talks about a little bit just the fact of how they actually got into the tournament and the teams that they had to beat to get into the tournament. It's unbelievable. Incredible.
They go on and win like one of the best Cinderella stories of all time, even though NC State is not necessarily considered a Cinderella generally because they're a Power 5 school. But at that time, they were not supposed to be in that position. So it was really cool, and it was really fun to talk to him about his conversion story as well.
All right, let's take our shot with the early trade driven by BMW of Utah and BMW of Pleasant Grove. 3 top-of-mind subjects to set the pace and get the conversation into high gear. Jimmer, congratulations on surviving your first experience driving a BMW M8 and not killing us while doing so.
I was surprised they let me do it, to be honest with you. I'm surprised they let me get behind the wheel. It was a lot of fun. That car is powerful. It's so fast. I used to drive a BMW, and I obviously need to get back on that train here pretty soon. And they're incredible cars. It was so much fun. You were in the back seat. I was trying to get you car sick. That was the whole goal, is to try to get Spence car sick. But Spence is like, "No, I'm built for this. I am built for this."
Yes.
And he was. So he was fine. It was a lot of
No
fun.
issues from me. I wanted you to go faster, Jimmer.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually pretty slow behind the wheel. I'm not gonna lie. I am not a speed demon. I got up to 60, and I'm like, all right, I'm good. I need to slow down.
Careful Jimmer doing his thing. But I'm going to ask you to be a little more risk-taking here as we get into the early tray. Are you ready to shoot?
Oh yeah, I'm excited about this early tray.
Let's go. Number 1. We are in the thick of March college basketball, something you know a thing or two about, my friend. My first question here today deals with conference tournaments, because that in and of itself is its own bracket and has significant pressure. And if you're good enough in your conference tournament, especially for the smaller schools, you get a chance to play in the big bracket, in the big dance. So what are conference tournaments like as you ramp up towards the field of 68?
Yeah, I love conference tournaments. It's the start of March Madness, in my opinion. The conference tournaments are so exciting, and you're playing against obviously teams that you've played already several times. And what that does is, in those conference tournaments, you get into some really big rivalry games, specifically with a lot of these smaller mid-major schools, and they are fighting to get into the NCAA tournament. It's the only way they can get into the NCAA tournament, is if they win these conference tournaments. The drama is high. It is extremely fun. Sometimes they're played on home floors because they're the high seed. It kind of depends. Some of them are at neutral sites. Sometimes they're at home floor. It makes it really fun. And, I remember playing in the conference tournament and having just a blast. We'd always go to Vegas to play in it. We play in Thomas and Mack Center. There's always a couple rounds. You're playing games back to back to back. You're not waiting to play games, which I loved. I was ready to go. I'd play every day if we could, you know what I mean? Instead of practicing, I'd rather play. And the conference tournament's built like that, right? So you're able to play a couple games in a row and try to win that conference tournament. Unfortunately, we never won the conference tournament when I was at BYU. We did not win. We won the regular season conference tournament 3 out of the 4 years that I was there. The regular season, obviously, but the actual conference tournament, we never won. We got to the championship and lost, but obviously we were at large bids every year, so we were okay. We knew that going into it, but at the same time, those are fun tournaments, and it's absolutely start the March Madness, and I am revving up for them. I am excited about it.
Let's go. The beautiful part about conference tournaments and March Madness is, in some cases, you literally can be the worst team in your league the entire regular season. You're the bottom of the barrel, the worst seed in your conference. So let's say you have 12 teams in your conference, you finish in 12th place, you still have a chance to win your conference tournament and book your spot in the field of 68 and get to the big dance. Every team has a chance in March, and that's what makes it so spectacular. And I'm telling you, that first tournament Thursday of March Madness, which typically hits in the third week, that first Thursday for me is in many ways like Christmas morning.
Yeah,
as a sports fan,
it might be it is the best weekend in my opinion. Like, it is. This whole 3-week stretch is just absolutely. If you're a basketball fan, if you're a sports fan in general, this is it. This is what it's about, because it is a longer, 3-week time period where you're like revved up and you're just waiting for Thursday to come, right? You're just waiting for those Thursday game to start so that you can fill out you see what your bracket is and see how that first round does. And like, my kids are excited about it. everyone is excited about the beginning of that NCAA tournament, and it's coming, and we are on the cusp of it. It's the best time in sports.
That naturally leads us into topic number 2, which pertains to the only undefeated team in men's college basketball in the regular season this go around, and that is the 31-0 Red Hawks of Miami of Ohio. Unbelievable run, and they just recently completed that perfect run with another almost miraculous, crazy overtime win over their rival, the Ohio Bobcats. So unbelievable performance by Miami of Ohio all season long to remain perfect. But Jimmer, the conversation, the drama around the Red Hawks is because they haven't played a tough schedule and because they have no quad 1 wins, meaning A-level wins, is there a chance that they don't make the NCAA tournament unless they win their conference tournament? Do they have to win the conference tournament to get in after going 31-0?
Man, Spence, that's the talk right now. And that, to me, it's insane, to be honest with you. Like, I don't care what league you're in. I don't care who you're playing. Obviously, you've played someone. You've played 31 games. You know, obviously, they're not in the top, one of the top tier conferences. They're playing who they have in front of them. Okay? The team has nothing to do with the scheduling. It's them going out there and playing the best that they can possibly play. And I think that if any team goes undefeated in the regular season, they should absolutely get an automatic bid no matter what. I want to propose that as a rule right now to the NCAA. If some team goes undefeated in the regular season, I don't care where they are, you get into the NCAA tournament. Knock out someone else. I do not care. That is absolutely should be the case. Miami of Ohio, I am with you. I don't care if you win your conference tournament or not. I hope you do, because I want everything to be put to rest. You should absolutely be in the NCAA tournament. I am with you. I'm a Red Hawk fan. Let's go. Sweet 16 at least for the Red Hawks.
Okay, I told you to come a little unhinged in this segment. This is appropriate.
Thank you.
This is what I'm going. This is how I want you to drive all of your cars, Jimmer.
No, I can't do that.
That attitude is what I want you to have behind the wheel. Love the passion. I'm so impressed with how many close games they have won. And look, I know that the competition hasn't been tier 1 or tier A, but still, there is power in finding ways to win basketball games.
100%.
And especially against conference foes who know you better than most, and they know how to scheme against you, and you see them twice a year in many cases.
Yes.
It's so difficult to go undefeated. I'm looking at their metrics. Miami of Ohio is number 53 in the primary sorting tool for the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee. They call it the net ranking.
Right.
53 is very bubbly. And I know they're 2-0 against B-level competition. They've got everything spread out into 4 quadrants. Quad 1 are the best type of wins. Quad 4 are the worst type of wins. The majority of Miami's schedule has been played in Quad 3 and Quad 4. Again, not a great schedule, but 31-0. And you do have 2 wins against decent competition. So the 53 in the net ranking overall, there are 364 Division I basketball teams. They're still number 53 there. Yeah. This is what makes March special. Teams like that. Yeah. And so I think they're going to win their conference tournament. I think it's become a moot point. But on the chance that they don't, I am with you. They have done enough. This magical ride. Put them in a first 4 game. I don't care. Make them play in Dayton, Ohio. But just let them in. You don't think the folks in Dayton, Ohio would love to have Miami of Ohio there and their whole that'd be a home game for them. So
be amazing.
Just find a way to put them in the bracket, man.
I'm with you.
Just get it done.
Get it done. I don't care what it takes. Get it done. NCAA, they are in the tournament this year. Let's go.
All right. Jimmer having his say on the Red Hawks. I'm just waiting for you to show up with your Miami of Ohio gear next podcast.
Can't wait. Got to go buy me some.
All right. Topic number 3 here in the early tray. This deals with humorous story that your wonderful and beautiful wife, Whitney, recently shared. So I'm actually going to turn this over to you. It deals with disciplining one child while your other kids are around. So Jimmer, take it away.
Oh my goodness. If you're a parent of young kids, you can relate to this story. It's absolutely hilarious. Whitney, I was, going for a run, working on my 13, my 13.1. And
Half marathon.
and Whitney was here with the kids, and Taft was playing, a video game called The Next. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like a virtual one where you can it's like very active. It's like the Wii, the Nintendo Wii. It's very active. He plays a baseball game. He was getting really upset because he was hitting the baseball. It's home run derby. He was hitting the baseball and it kept being foul ball. And he was like, I'm hitting it perfectly. It should be a home run. It's a foul ball. And Whitney's like, hey, Taft, you got to calm down, right? You got to calm down with all this stuff. He's like, no. And he gets into a rage, obviously. And Whitney's like, all right, we're taking this away from you right now. You got to calm down. Taft, I want you to come downstairs. And, and she's talking to, trying to get him to come downstairs. And while this is going on, right, Wesley, my oldest daughter, walks out of her room with a witch hat on and makeup. And she's walking just right through and oblivious to everything that is going on. And Whitney's like, what is she doing? Why does she have a witch hat on and all this stuff? And my little daughter Grayson sitting there is and she's just echoing what Whitney is saying. Literally she's yelling at Taft right behind Whitney. And so Whitney's like, you need to come downstairs. And Grace is like, Taft, you need to come downstairs. And Taft, you need to, and all this chaos is going on while she's trying to discipline Taft. And she's just sitting there how do I not laugh? How do I not actually just be giggling during this while I'm trying to be serious to get Taft to come downstairs because you have to discipline him? And it was just one of those things where she just started laughing and she's just like, what am I going to do? And it's just hilarious. Taft starts laughing. Everyone starts laughing. And then it's just a really fun little thing. But as a parent, it had literally happened this morning. Has that happened to you where you're trying to discipline your kid and you just can't help it? They do something funny or whatever it is. And all of a sudden you're just like, all right, whatever. It is what it is. Hopefully this all blows over and just don't do that again. All right. And then you just keep moving forward. Right. Is that good parenting or what?
It's amazing parenting. And it happens on the daily in my house because we're kind of in the same general area with the age of our kids. I have 4, you have 3, but I've got 14, 10, almost 8, and 5. And on the daily with my 5-year-old, she can be a pill sometimes. We love Little Navy, and she makes us laugh often, but sometimes we have to discipline her, but then she'll just say something so funny and off the wall and cute. It's I can't be angry. I can't be angry at you.
I know. It's just hilarious. It is what it is. It came top of the mind and I was like, you know what? We got to talk about this on the pod because it's so many people can relate to this that are listening to the podcast right now. And it's just one of those funny things. So shout out to Whitney and how she handled everything. And, Taft, stop getting so upset. Jeez.
Send in your parenting advice for Jimmer and me anytime you like. All right, great stuff. The early train from the logo. Let's take our first break. When we return, we get into more March Madness with the great Thurl Bailey, his epic Cinderella run with NC State to the top of the bracket and a national championship, and how faith in God not only helped him get there, but it changed everything meaningful in his life. When From the Logo continues, presented by Built.
It's like you're diving into brownie bliss with chocolatey gooey lava that erupts in a world of flavor. And it has 17 grams of protein. What the puff? Hit me. Oh!
Fluffy, chocolatey, and packed with protein. What the puff? Built Puff.
Welcome back to From the Logo with Jimmer Fredette teamed up with Built. It is time for the Minky Couture Full Court Press with our VIP guest. You can send your VIP the best blanket ever, just like we do for all of our guests at softminkyblankets.com. Today's guest has a voice that frankly feels like a warm blanket. He is an NBA veteran and NCAA basketball national champion, Thurl Bailey. He's currently an analyst for the Utah Jazz of the NBA. He was a 1984 NBA All-Rookie Team selection who later played professionally in Italy and Greece. A man of many talents. We mentioned that voice. He can sing, he can act, and he can certainly motivate. His faith and temperance amidst adversity in his life is downright incredible. Here is our unforgettable conversation with Thurl Bailey on From the Logo. Thurl, it only feels appropriate that we welcome you to From the Logo and do so in the month of March, arguably the greatest month of the year, certainly for basketball fans. It feels like Christmas. What are you thinking every time we roll into March and the madness of college basketball?
I know I'm thinking today, how do these two young guys even remember that? You must have just saw it or something on the internet because you're just too young. But I feel it doesn't even have to be March, guys. But because it is March, there's an extra special feeling. And then my phone starts blowing up with my NC State teammates because we're all on a text chain. And it's the season, right? It's the season that we were able to pull off something really special that we're talking about 43 years later.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we'll talk about it obviously here on this podcast, but to start, I got to hit you with a hard-hitting question, right? So, who's winning it this year? March Madness. Who do you got winning it all, taking all the way this year?
That is hard, man. Well, it's
is.
hard for a couple of reasons because it's so different now, guys, because in my era we had guys that that spent at least 3, maybe 4 years, and we developed these rivalries, and plus with the NBA season, it's hard for me to get to watch every team, but I've watched some really good basketball. Duke's pretty strong. Of course, BYU is in here. I think AJ is an incredible player and is going to go a long way with his career, but I always look for teams like Gonzaga who have done well throughout the regular season, but just failed to kind of get over that hump. I don't know. It's wide open for me. It really is. I mean, it really is wide open. There's so many great players now, and so it's going to be a hard bracket to fill out.
Thurl, as you consider the March Madness bracket, and you mentioned like you think we're too young to really remember what you did, but I'll have you know, I think I was all of 2 years old when you won your national championship at NC State.
Yeah.
But I remember thoroughly that my parents talked about Jim Valvano and the true Cinderella story, and I grew up with that. But I didn't really understand what it was you actually went through with that team until I saw the oft-discussed documentary, the ESPN 30 for 30, that was so remarkable about how difficult it was for you and your team just to get through the ACC tournament. Like, the games you had to win in that tournament because you didn't have an at-large hope, but you ran that table at the ACC postseason and then got into March Madness and did what you did. But so I think everyone remembers like the Shot and Lorenzo Charles and Jim Valvano running on the court, but like it started the first round of the ACC tournament and things were bleak. It's crazy what you guys did starting back in your postseason conference tournament.
Well, I know we don't have enough time on this podcast, but it started 2 years before that.
Oh, wow.
It really did. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
because people know about the game. They know about the dunk. They know about the running around of Jim Valvano and beating a great Houston team. But it was the journey, man. It was the journey that started with a guy. We had no idea who he was. We didn't trust him. He didn't recruit us. And so it goes back further. But when I when I think about that particular year when things just started to culminate between us and Jim and the team, it I think what made it so incredible was what was going on the outside because we believed. We
Right.
thought we were pretty good.
Right.
And we thought at that point, me as a senior, Derek Wittenberg as a senior, Sidney Lowe as a senior, we had a pretty good team. We really didn't know how good we were until we actually started the season, and then Derek Wittenberg got hurt against Virginia. He came down on Othell Wilson's foot or something and broke his fifth metatarsal, and we thought our season was over. And what happened from that, as you guys know in sports, you can go one or two ways. Other guys can step up and grow up and fill that void, which is what happened. We had a guy named Lorenzo Charles and Cozell McQueen and Ernie Myers just step up and mature. And then when Derek Wittenberg came back, we were that much tougher. And Coach Valvano reminded us every day of what the ultimate goal was and kept us with an eye on the prize. And look, you got to have things, you have to have the stars align in the right way. But, we thought we were pretty good, and we started to take off after we beat Wake Forest. We had to win the ACC tournament to get in, as you mentioned. And then we beat Virginia with Ralph Sampson. I mean, he was kind of that day Wembanyama, right? I mean,
Yeah.
And then we went through Brad Doherty, James Worthy, Sam Perkins. I can't remember the other guy who was on that team. Do you remember?
Whoever it was. I
Some
have no
Michael
idea.
Jordan guy.
Yeah. MJ. I don't know.
Jordan.
Yeah.
We beat them and we got the bid. So
Yeah.
that's when it really started. I mean, that's when
Right.
we really knew that we could go far.
Yeah, and speaking of, Coach Valvano, right? I want to go back to that. And you said, obviously he wasn't the one that recruited you. You came, and all of a sudden, you're with him. How did he end up gaining your guys' trust? And what was the greatest lesson that you learned from Coach Jimmy V?
That's the golden question right there, because Coach Norm Sloan, who came to my house, and back then recruiting is probably similar to what it is today. The head coaches came to your house, you fixed them dinner. My mom sat down, and my dad, and we sat around at the table after dinner, and we started asking questions. We fielded the coaches' questions, and my mom's first question was, "Coach, if my son selects your school, you're going to make sure he gets a great education, right?" And the coaches will always answer, "Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am." And then my mom's follow-up would be, "Coach, don't make me come down there." But my mom didn't play around. I was going to go to school. I was going to go to school where Thurl Bailey, my mom, told me I was going. So that's how it was. And so we selected NC State over several schools. And after my freshman year, Coach Norm Sloan left to go to Florida. He took another job. He had a contract dispute. And so he left, like all of us, just hanging. And so when your coach jets like that, different guys do different things. A couple of guys were going to follow him. A couple of guys were going to wait. I was going home. I called my mom and said, "Mom, Coach Sloan, he's leaving. So I'm going to come home." And my mom, I'm going to quote her. She said, "Son, you might be going somewhere, but you ain't coming here." She said, "You're going to stay there, and you're going to see who they hire. You might like him. If not, we'll find somewhere else where you can get your degree." And so I stayed and waited, and we're sitting in this room with our arms crossed and our heads down. You knew what the posture meant. We're getting ready to meet some guy we don't know, we don't trust, and we don't want to hear it. So in walks Coach Valvano, introduces himself, and he looks at his watch, and he says, "Guys, just give me 20 minutes. Look, I know you don't want to be here. I'm your new coach. I didn't recruit you. I know you don't want to be here, but if you listen to me for 20 minutes and you still don't want to be here, I'll sign your release forms." You talk about risk?
Yeah, for real.
Dude, he was about to lose his whole team.
Everybody. This
He
is
had
the NIL
20
era.
Who risked their future in
Yeah.
20 minutes? And guys, the first thing he said to us He says, I know I'm going to win a national championship. He says, I know I am. And I thought it was selfish for him to say, I know I am. But he said, guys, if I can get you to see what I'm seeing, I dreamt about it. If I can get you to see what I'm seeing, dream what I'm dreaming, I think we can do it. And he went on for 20 minutes talking about, I mean, he painted a picture that if you even thought about leaving, you just felt like you were going to miss something amazing. That's how he was. That's the kind of motivator he was. He sold it. I mean, he hooked us, man, and nobody left. So it took us a couple of years, but we got to know him in ways that most players don't get to know their coaches. One of our first practices, he brought a ladder in practice and put it under the hoop. He brought a stack of nets and his gold pair of scissors from his desk. And he said, guys, today for hour and a half, all we're going to do is we're going to practice cutting these nets down and celebrating like we just won the national championship.
That's awesome.
Awkward as all get out.
No one in there.
But that's what we did. It
Yep.
was super awkward. We did it twice a month. And so about the fifth time we started to really get into it, and we understood what he was trying to teach us was that if you want to get there, you got to be different. You got to be uncomfortable sometimes. So that's really where it started. And he did a great job of keeping us focused on it, even in times where something may have happened to threaten that. But he was a master. The guy was a master of getting to know you and communicating and motivating.
Incredible stuff with Thurl Bailey on From the Logo. And Thurl, so much of this podcast that Jimmer and I enjoy is based around faith and sport and how the two intertwine. What did Jim Valvano do to help you, generally speaking, with believing in something better, especially through adversity, and using faith to overcome hard things?
You know, I don't think that V was much of a religious guy. I mean, I think, you know, he grew up and he believed in God. But I think a lot of the spiritual and the faith-based stuff was on a personal basis. I grew up in a Baptist home, so I kind of took that with me. And other guys, you know, kind of personalize it in their own way, whether they went to church or not. But for me, I always felt that growing up. I mean, my parents weren't religious churchgoers, but they made sure we as kids went to Sunday school every Sunday. They got us dressed up. They put a little change in our hands so we could put it in when they passed around the plate, we could put it in
Yep.
you know, in the plate. But I was always intrigued about Jesus Christ. And so that was always a part of me because I felt like, you know, my parents set me up really well with a really good base, even if in the long term they were not every single Sunday churchgoers. But when I went to college, I just felt, you know, I joined Campus Crusade for Christ. I mean, things like that, just because I had this yearning, if you will, that there was more to all this. And so I think that helped me as a college student when I struggled. And whether I'd go to a Baptist church or a non-denominational church, I would always keep that as my foundation, if you will. But it's hard in college too, because you got guys coming from so many different places, and we didn't have a chaplain, so it was more of our responsibility to work that into our lives when we could. But you know, we never really got to know the part of V because I know he grew up Catholic,
Right.
but he never wore it on his sleeve. But I think with all of his teachings and the things he taught us, there was some spiritual stuff there, you know, that we could interpret, because it was never about just us. You know, it was about achieving things and leaving your mark and leaving a legacy with him.
Yeah. No, that's great to hear. You know, Coach V, obviously he had some really remarkable and special things about him and what he did. And obviously his legacy continues to be on with his foundation and all that goes on, all the good that he does, and his famous speech that he had that was just absolutely incredible. And we know that there is something in there, right? And continuing to talk about, the religious aspect, you were someone who actually, converted and joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I know you've talked about your conversion story before, but we'd love to be able to hear it from you here on From the Logo, because it's an incredible story. And obviously you're, someone of faith. And that's what we love to talk about here, about sports, about great achievements, but also about faith and what brought you to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and why that was important to you.
Well, I appreciate the premise of your podcast, first of all, because it's important. Everybody, I don't know anybody that doesn't love sports, but it's always nice when you can go beyond that and above that and find out kind of the depth of athletes. And my story, I guess my story is interesting because I've always felt like journeys are important for everybody. Everybody goes through something, and my journey is no different. And my spiritual journey, I think, has been even more for me rewarding. And that's not something that I could have done on my own. I think all of us have influences in our lives, whether it's Christ, or whether it's somebody in our mortality that has a huge influence on what you do and decisions you make, and the choices that you make. So without it being an hour and a half fireside, I would say the short version, the shorter version is that I knew little about the LDS culture when I came to Salt Lake City. Again, I was born in a Baptist environment, and I had a really good foundation and belief in Christ. But even when I went to church with my parents at times, I felt like, even at a young age, I felt like, there was something more that I needed. Or, I would watch some of the older folks in the front of the congregation when the music was playing and the preacher was preaching his sermon. They would feel something, man. They would just they would feel something
Absolutely.
that I wanted to feel.
Yep.
And I kept asking my parents when I was going to feel it. I want to, and so as I grew up, I just felt like, I was on this search, if you will, not a literal search as much as it was a figurative one, because there was a yearning in me to always know more, know where I came from, and know what my purpose was on this earth, and know where I was going after that. So I would join, faith-based organizations in school, and they fulfilled me somewhat, but that journey just kind of continued. When I came out to Salt Lake City, and don't get me wrong, I heard about Mormons way before.
Yep.
I all kinds of things, man. Like,
Sure.
and it was really in conversations. It wasn't like, all of a sudden, somebody brought it up. But I got to Salt Lake City and found that the people there were just amazing. It was a culture shock arriving in Utah, because that's not the culture I grew up in. So, I would go to practice and I see the same black guy on the corner at the bus station. And that's the only one I saw for like days, except the guys on my team. So culturally, like,
Yeah.
it took me some getting used to. But the one thing I did notice, that the folks that I was around, for the most part, away from basketball, were so inviting and so kind. I tell people that I used to go to these events with the Jazz, and afterwards, people would give me gifts, and then I'd take them home and unwrap them, and I ended up with like 65 Book of Mormons at my house, right?
That's what to say.
And they'd always have something written in them whether it was a quote, and then they sign it. And I'm like, man, I'm getting more autographs than I'm giving. What's this about? But I
That's
think
great.
that sort of started my curiosity, if you will. Started my curiosity into this religion and these people. And for me at that time, it was more just knowledge, right? It was more understanding the culture and the people I was going to be around, hopefully for a while, because I loved being in Utah with the Jazz. And then, not too long after that, as I got to know people, I just started to gravitate. Most of my friends were LDS. And then I finally met this girl, right? I had gone through a divorce and I was single for a couple of years, wasn't planning on dating or anything. And I met this girl at a basketball camp. I actually hired her to work my basketball camp, along with some other girls that were playing basketball at UBCC, which is UVU now. And so she was intriguing. She was very outgoing. And so I don't know how it happened, but I was to go to have dinner with her at her parents' house in a place called Richfield, Utah. I had no idea I thought it was Utah. I thought it was Salt Lake proper, right? So
Right.
I was driving, and 2.5 hours later, I get
Yeah, I
to
was about to say.
Richfield, Utah. And I'm from DC, right? So I get out of
Yep.
my car and like, a cow just walked across the street.
What is going on here? I have never
What's
seen
going on?
this.
So, yeah, and the story goes is that I knocked on the door and eventually I wasn't allowed to come in the house. Now, this story has caused a little bit of stir because, I've told this story before on podcasts, and this seems to be the part that gets people's attention, that her parents didn't let me in the house. But it's not the best part of the story. It was the beginning of something that was amazing. It was the beginning of learning about people. It was the beginning of learning about forgiveness and unconditional love and truths that I know I needed to know and learn, and other people did as well. And so what ended up happening was me and this young lady began dating because of the fact that we had a lot to talk about. Because if your parents aren't going to let me in the house, I want to know why. And they don't want you dating me, basically. I want to know why. Is it because I wasn't LDS, or was it more than that? And I began to understand culturally why they didn't want their daughter dating me. And it wasn't really personal against me because I was Black. I mean, that had something to do with it. But it's because we all want to protect our people we love, right? We all want to think we know what's best for the people we love. And I'm the same way, right? I'm a dad. I want to protect my kids. If I feel like something's not right, I'm going to let them know that. So I got that. But I think the thing that I didn't get was the opportunity for them to get to know me and my culture and who I was. And sometimes you're afraid of what you don't know. And so Cindy and I became really close friends because of that, because we had questions about each other's culture and where we came from. And we weren't even seriously dating or anything. We were just friends. But that brought us closer together. And I'm telling you, after a while, I ended up getting to know her. I fell in love with this girl. And that really started me wanting to understand how could her parents raise this. They had to be good parents because they raised this woman that I'm madly in love with now. And I wanted to know more about her. And so she was such a great influence on me being interested. And I have to say that the religious factor was a discussion with us, me being raised in a Baptist church and me letting her know where I come from on that side of the tracks, and then her letting me know how she was raised. And kind of fast forward a little bit, her parents just were not happy with the fact that we were dating, and and she had a choice to make. And the bottom line is, unconventionally, she chose me. And so there was some separation there with her and her family for quite a while, because to them, she didn't make the right choice. So, you know, uh, I guess what I would do is I would jump to the part where for a while, all we had was each other. And we dated for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years. And there was a long period of time before her parents would even speak to her. She would get phone calls into her dad, but it wasn't a great situation because they felt like she'd gone wayward. And look, I I got that. Well, we ended up getting married, a civil wedding, um, and we would go to all kinds of churches, man, non-denominational. We go to LDS churches. We go to even some Baptist churches, and so that's part of that search for me that I was talking about earlier. And so it was interesting just because she said to me early on, she said, "This is how I was raised. And, you know, if we have kids, I want them raised in the church." And I had no issue with that. As a matter of fact, when I would go to church with her on Fast and Testimony Sundays, I wasn't even a member, and I'd be compelled to get up and bear what I felt was my testimony. And so it was really the influence of not just her, but a lot that was going on at the time. And then I started to read the Book of Mormon, and I had questions. I had a lot of questions, a lot. So I would ask some of my teammates, Fred Roberts, Pace Mannion,
Yeah.
Andy Toulson,
Yeah.
because I wanted like this information. We have these great discussions. And so, long story short, I had to I had to follow my heart. I had to follow my prayers because I really relied on those. And the situation came up to where I had to decide whether I was going to stay in the country to continue playing basketball in the NBA, or whether I was going to take a deal that most people wouldn't have taken to go overseas and play for almost no money and a team that was in last place. I mean, who in the world would decide that? Right? I mean, I played, the Jazz traded me after 8 years. I went to Minnesota for 3. After my 3rd year in Minnesota, I was a free agent. So I got this deal from my agent. He said, "You're going to laugh at this deal because it's just crazy. This team in Italy wants you to, this team in Greece wants you to come over." No, I went to Greece right after Minnesota, and they paid me a lot of money, but I didn't enjoy my experience. So the next year, I had to decide what I was going to do. So my agent was talking about some NBA teams, and then he gave me this Italian deal, and I said, "I'm not going back over there, right?" He said, "Yeah, but I have to tell you about it. Last place team, almost no money. All my money had to be built in my incentives in my contract." And so it kept me up all night. And I remember the next morning I got up and hadn't had much sleep, and Cindy asked me what was going on. I said, "Honey, I just feel like I need to take this deal. There's something, I don't know. I don't, with all the things that are going on around us, your parents, my parents, I just think I feel compelled we need to take it." And she said, "You crazy. I'm not going over there with you." And I had to really convince her that for us, this was the right thing. I prayed about it all night long. And so she finally gave in. And I went over early, and she was going to come over later. And so I was there all alone in training
Yeah.
camp. And so I was reading, I was praying, trying to learn Italian. And I called her up. And I said, honey, I know there's a couple of missionaries over here from the States. Can you find me a number? I think she about dropped the phone, man. She picked it up. It's like, really? I said, yeah, because, I can't communicate. I'm sure if I had them over, I feel like I was at home. It wasn't even about, talking religion. So she got me the number and called, and I felt like as soon as I hung up, my doorbell rung, but it wasn't quite.
It's like right away. They were listening.
But eventually, a couple of missionaries came over. One was from Arkansas, one was from Bountiful, Utah. And we just had the best time. I just felt like I was at home. And they asked me a bunch of questions, religious questions, a lot of things I knew because I knew Cindy and I had been in the culture for a while. But they wanted to start the discussions with me, and I agreed to it. So they came back day after day. And I think the pinnacle of all this was there was a particular night they came over, and the mission president came with them. His name was Howard Clegg. And it was one of the most emotional nights I'd ever had in my life, and spiritual nights I'd ever had in my life. I really believed the Book of Mormon, but I still internally had an issue with blacks in the priesthood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, I had gotten some pretty good answers from people, but nothing really ever, it wasn't like I thought they were wrong. It's just that nothing really satisfied that. And I remember asking President Clegg that when he came to my house with the missionaries after they were done teaching a lesson. And he just plainly said to me, which gave me the opportunity to actually interpret what he was saying. He said, son, Thurl, it just wasn't time. He said, what you'll understand as you read the Book of Mormon, and if you really want the answer, you're gonna have to get down on your knees, and you're gonna have to ask Heavenly Father to give you some clarity. He said, but I believe that Heavenly Father has a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
And he said, you'll find the answer. So it was a night where there were so many emotions. I mean, I was crying, and then when they left, I knew where my answer was going to lie. And so I prayed about it, and Cindy wasn't even with me then. And I remember calling her late that night and bawling on the phone, and her grandmother had just passed away. So I said, honey, I need to tell you something. And she didn't even hesitate. She said, wait, you're going to get baptized, aren't you?
Mhm.
I hadn't even gotten it out. I mean, I was bawling, so I don't know how she knew, but I said, yeah, I am. How'd you know? She said, I just felt it. I felt it all the way here. And so a lot of things were going on, but I think the epitome of everything was the fact that through that whole journey, through the good, the bad, the fact that she would call home and not be able to talk to her mom and dad on Christmases and birthdays, was that I was able to get her dad, once I committed to baptism, her dad to fly out, and her mom to fly out to Milan to baptize me.
Wow.
And I think the amazing thing was, right before I went down into the waters of baptism, my eyes caught her mom. And it was as if we were speaking to each other about all this that has happened around us needed to happen for maybe me to learn about the power of forgiveness, maybe for her and her husband to know that, God has his own plan, right? And also for their daughter to not see my color, but saw my heart and the ability for her to choose me, which wasn't but that's not an easy decision. And you guys
Yeah.
know that it's not. And I love her family. I love her mom. I love her dad. I love what they've taught her and the way she was raised. And that was a major influence for me. There were other things, but I think when you can learn how someone else has lived their life and they have a deep, deep belief and still make the decisions in their life that are tough based on that belief that Heavenly Father loves everybody, you know? And so, yeah, and this was almost a fireside, but I,
It's awesome.
and those are the things that we teach our kids. We have 3 beautiful kids. Well, they're not kids anymore. We're empty nesters, but it's unconditional. I don't care what you do, right? We hope you make the right decisions. We know you're not going to make the right decisions every time, but unconditionally, I will love you. Always love you. And always be here for you. So I think there were a lot of lessons learned during that journey that not just we've gone through. There's a lot of people out there who've gone through the same thing. So, yeah, guys got me all emotional here. Sorry.
I love it.
Amazing. Oh,
I
my
I
goodness.
honestly can't get
Ugh.
enough of it, and I am
Seriously.
blown away by about
Ugh.
17 different aspects of that story. But I do want to highlight one in particular, and that is because in our day and age, we live in a culture with social media where people are so quick to take offense at literally anything. I think back to the moment where you had the maturity and the perspective when you were not let in the home of your eventual father and mother-in-law and had to wonder those things. How did you not want to go tell everybody and be angry and want to
Yeah.
blow up? And because if it's happening in 2026, that story gets told on Twitter or Instagram and it just catches fire. And there's so much negativity from it. So what was it about who you are and your personality that allowed you to step back and do that? I am fascinated by this.
Well, I just think it's, we all have a part of us that's our nature and our personality. And a lot of that's based on how we were raised, right? My parents, I was born in 61 in DC. Civil rights movement, stronger than ever. My parents were at Martin Luther King's speech in DC.
Whoa.
And they would come home.
Jeez.
They would come home and teach us about what was going on in the outside world. And they always talked about they never came home angry, whether it was a protest or whether something happened in the world. They just came and taught us. They taught us how we needed to be towards people. And especially back then when racial tension was at its highest. And so I absorbed all that. And even through school, even through school when it was exactly like Remember the Titans, you saw that movie. That's really how it was. It was
Right.
depicted really well in that movie. And so I think part of me was I'm always willing to give people an opportunity, give them a chance. I'm always trying to see the best in them and not the worst, because we all have our journeys and our stories. So I think when that happened, it's crazy because one of the first things I thought, because I played for the Jazz, right? One of the first things I thought was, aren't they Jazz fans? And it was like, but that didn't help my
How did that
resume
not
at all.
happen? Yeah, you're like, how did this? That's funny.
But I think part of it was just one, knowing her personality and how she was, right? And the other part of me was like, they got to be really good people. They have to be. because look who they raised. And so I think the better part of me just wanted to give it a chance, if you will.
We need more of that. We need more of that in the world today. We just do. And your story is incredible. It's awesome to highlight here, obviously on the podcast. And we appreciate you, giving your perspective, being vulnerable, talking about it. And it's gonna help. I know you've helped so many people throughout your life with your story that have gone through similar things, that have had to deal with similar things. So we appreciate that. And obviously talking about that here on the podcast. And I do want to transition to your time with the Jazz, right? Like when you first got drafted, number 7th, right, overall to
Yeah.
the Jazz.
Wait,
How
weren't you
was
7?
I was 10th. You got me. You
Oh,
got
okay.
me, man. You
You
got me
should have
by a
been
little
7.
bit. So yeah, exactly. I was hoping that I was 7th, but you got me by a little bit. But the you get to the Jazz, and obviously you're a part of the awesome teams, right? You have John Stockton, you got Karl Malone, you got some of these amazing players that are a part of your team. And I was curious about what that was like to be a part of that team, that culture. And I want to know specifically a little bit about John Stockton, because he was one of my favorite players. What was he like as a teammate?
Well, first of all, before I came to the Jazz in 83, 84 after the championship, Jazz were horrible, dude. Jazz,
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't
They
know
were
how
good
bad
at
they
first.
were.
Yeah.
I didn't know how bad they were till I got here.
Yeah.
And but I was excited. I was excited to be in the NBA. Didn't care where I was going to go. And I got here, and the first person that kind of came to me was a guy named Daryl Griffith. He said, because Daryl had won an NCAA championship at Louisville several years before I won in college. He said, "Look, you're like me, man. You're used to winning, but don't expect to win right away here." And then Mark Eaton came over and put me under his big old wing and tried to, to talk to me about the league. And I knew I was one piece of the puzzle of this team wanting to turn things around. Well, that first season, my season, we made the playoffs for the very first time. The Jazz had been in Utah. And Stockton and Malone were not on the team at that time.
Yeah.
Stockton came the next year, and he held out. Dude, they offered him $55,000. He held out for $5,000. And then they ended up signing him. He came, and he was booed on the draft night on the Jumbotron when the arena was full. Nobody knew what a Stockton was, or nobody knew even what a where Gonzaga was. So they were like, who is this little white kid, right? From the school we don't even know. And he plays behind Ricky Green for a season, and then you could just see something happening. And when he finally got his opportunity, the dude was just freaking amazing. I mean, he was a gym rat. And he's kind of like you, Jimmer. He was just kind of, he didn't really care about the accolades. He was just a gym rat. He wanted to play every night. He wasn't about to miss a game. And he just balled. I mean, he was a guy who wasn't fancy, but he could find you. I'd be running down the court, and all of a sudden, I have the ball. If I didn't think I was open.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he did.
How did this happen?
But he had this sixth sense ability, man. He had this thing about him that just made him special. And he didn't really grasp how good he was. He just went out and played, and at the end of the night, the guy was, 12, 13 assists, and we were starting to win ball games. And then Karl came the following year, this corn-fed kid that, was shooting air balls from the free throw line, and he was ticked that he had been drafted so low. He had a chip on his shoulder. So he connected with Adrian Dantley as soon as he got here and learned the ropes. And then those two were just magical as I watched them, for 7, 8 years, just take us to the promised land, short of the promised land.
Oh man, incredible stuff. And you played for the great and huge personality of Frank Layden, which was a fun and unpredictable era of Utah Jazz basketball. And then when Frank was done, it became Jerry Sloan. And you've already referenced some tough personalities that you dealt with in your life, growing up in DC and throughout your college years and being toughened there, and then your future in-laws. How did Jerry Sloan make you a tougher man, Thurl, and help you? Because he's not the warmest character on the surface and was certainly a hard-nosed NBA coach.
Well, his reputation preceded him for sure. And for a long time was the only jersey hanging in the rafters of the Chicago Bulls.
Amazing.
And so Frank Layden drafted me, and then he hired Jerry as his assistant. And so not too long after that, I think Frank coached for a couple years, maybe 3, and then he handed the reins over to Jerry. Well, we didn't treat Jerry as an assistant because we knew the lore and the reputation of Jerry Sloan. And, you know, he put his stamp on us even in that role with Frank. But when he took over, I think one of the smartest things he did was he surrounded himself with guys who had been there. And you can't mention Jerry Sloan without mentioning Phil Johnson. They were just a pair. They were a strong duo. And Phil didn't need the accolades. You know, he wasn't out front, but he was one of the brains of the outfit. And so Jerry would always say, look, I'm smart enough to know I don't know everything, so I have to surround myself with the right folks. But he was tough. And you know that the identity of a team starts with its leader, right? You guys know this as athletes. And Jerry was no joke. And during that time, the offense didn't necessarily have the advantage in the NBA like it does today.
Right.
Because you could beat a guy up or you could get beat up and you just play on. And we loved it. And so the toughness of Jerry Sloan really it emitted over the whole team. And I think that's when we started getting a reputation in the league, really being tough to beat. And you had a dynamic duo that was one of the best. You knew the pick and roll was coming, Jimmer. You just couldn't stop it.
It was amazing. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. Every single time you were coming off that screen to roll on the side, you know, they run that little shuffle cut and then they'd come and they'd set the screen and it was just 2-man game and no one could stop it ever.
Couldn't
right?
stop it.
Stockton was so good at understanding how to, first of all, he came off the screen perfectly so the guy couldn't get around, right? So he was always at an advantage. And then at that time, you know, Carl was so good at rolling and he found the right space. He knew exactly when to actually roll all the way or roll to the pocket, and Stockton would deliver at the exact right time. And the thing about Stockton that I loved specifically that people, you know, like the guy didn't miss. He could shoot so well. And he had a great percentage, kind of had that side shot, you know what I mean? That where it came from the side. And he was so good though. And he just knew exactly what to do. It was so smart. I loved watching it. And that's why, you know, I would watch him and I'd learned how to play pick and roll from that perspective because he was so good at it.
You had a side shot too, Jim.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I saw that. I had the side shot. I was like, man, this is my guy. I loved it. So I loved watching those teams and obviously your career and everything that you did and the Jazz did during that time period and everything. So, you know, I know we have maybe a couple more questions for you. My last question for you is, what was your hardest lesson that you have learned as a pro? What was your hardest lesson?
Well, I think my hardest lesson was probably my best lesson, and I wasn't even a pro in the NBA. I was a pro overseas. I was in my prime. I was in my 30s, and you know that's sort of an old man in professional terms. And I remember driving from my home in Como, Italy to Lugano, Switzerland. I make that drive every now and then. You probably have too.
I just visited both of those places. It's gorgeous. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been there in a while, so I don't know if they're open borders or not, but in order to get over to Lugano, you had to stop at the border patrol. And at that time, you stopped and you showed your passport and visa, and they would ask you 3 questions. And I had done it many times. So this particular time was, I don't know, maybe my 50th time doing it. And I stopped one particular day with a lot of stuff going on in my life. And the lady asked me the first question. She wanted to know where I was coming from. And I answered that question like I had done many times before. And she asked me, what's your purpose here today, sir? Answered that one. And just like normal, I waited for the last question. She said, well, where are you going? What's your destination? So I drove my car over into Switzerland, and I can't remember what I was intending on doing, but I got about a kilometer down the road with those 3 questions ringing in my ears, and I pulled over into the parking lot. And I was by myself, and I'm sitting there in my car. I had my music. I had Prince playing. I remember the song. And I turned the radio off, and I'm thinking about these 3 freaking questions she just asked me. They hit me different today. So I just started at the first one. She wanted to know where I'd come from. And I realized how hugely important that question was for me in every single phase of my life. Spiritually, we all want to know our origin, right? Spiritually, we just and she only meant where I had just come from in Como, but it just hit me that I've got to get my life organized. I've got to get my life prioritized and what's important to me. And I got to the next question because that first question reminded me of my past. It actually took me back to when my mom used to come up to me when I acted up, and she put her fist by my chin and she said, "Boy, don't you ever forget where you came from." And so I thought about that funny moment. I got to the second question about purpose, and I just wondered, my purpose isn't to run around in shorts and throw a ball in the hoop. That's not basketball doesn't define me. What do I need to be doing with all this? I've been gifted. Yeah, I worked hard, but I've been gifted with all this for a reason. Is it just to collect money in my bank account, buy a nice car? No, it's something. I have this platform now, right? I have all these things that I've been building. What am I to do with it? And so I'm sitting in my car just like thinking about all kinds of stuff. Like if my career ended tomorrow, what would I do? What am I prepared for? Got to the last question about destination. Man, where do I see myself 5, 6 years from now? So I left that day basically saying to myself that I need to revisit those questions often in every phase of my life and make sure that I'm on this journey, I'm going in the right direction. Make sure that my purpose has something to do with service, because all of our purposes should, right? And so it doesn't necessarily mean giving money, but it means serving people. That's the happiest I've ever been, is when I've served others. And so I think the toughest lesson I probably have learned in my life is that we all have choices to make. And, sometimes you want to choose like Cindy did with me. She saw something like, dude, I know I'm not perfect, but she saw something that nobody else saw at the time. And I think with me at that time, the tough part was just coming to the realization that um, if we are really in tune spiritually. Those questions are a little bit easier to answer. You may not like them. Like, you may not like the answer,
That's right.
but you're pretty sure where the answer came from. And it took me a while to really hone in on that. I did have a chance to come back into the NBA after I left Italy. And that year, it's funny because that year I signed that contract to that really bad team. We ended up winning the championship that year. And I knew it wasn't all by happenstance, but I've had some tough lessons in my life, but I think I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the journey. I'm grateful that even the most difficult times, I took a lot from those, and hopefully can pass those down to my kids and my grandkids.
Thurl, I've joked with Jimmer before that I want him to be my life coach, but I think I want you to be my life coach now. So
100%. Kick me out of here. Kick me out of here.
Jimmer's
Spence.
great and all, but after this conversation, I may be accepting a few more applications.
Well, there's so much we can learn from each other, man, right? I mean, there's a lot more. I mean, even at 64 years old, 65 in April, there's so much I learned from my kids. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, if you're open to it, right? It's just so much that we can teach each other. And Jimmer touched on it earlier when he said that there's so much going on in this world. There's so much bad, but there's so much good. And if we can all lean towards being that force for good, man, just some amazing things that we can do.
Unbelievable stuff. And we need to have a part 2. So we're just going to go ahead and schedule that for a few months out because we need more of Thurl Bailey on From the Logo. Because people haven't even heard about how multifaceted you are. You're an incredible singer. You've dabbled in acting. You're an awesome broadcaster. So we're going to come back and have a part 2 with Thurl Bailey to talk about all those things. But for the time being, we just want to send our love to you genuinely. We love you and we appreciate you and we're inspired by you. Thank you so much, Thurl.
Well, you guys know that I'm a fan of both of you. I really am. And the sports speak for itself, but as people, people who get to know you, they know what you're all about. And so thank you. I'm honored to be a part of your podcast here and look forward to the next time.
What a story. We will not forget that anytime soon. Incredible stuff from Thurl Bailey. But we must call a timeout. When we return, Jimmer and I open up the mailbag of listener questions and comments in the always entertaining Open Gym. We are built from the logo, and the show rolls on after this.
Like when Grandma was baking cookies, and she'd let you lick the batter. It feels like a fluffy hug. Cookie dough.
What the puff? This thing has 15 grams of protein.
Grandma loved protein.
So, this is your stop.
Fluffy, chocolatey, and packed with protein. What the puff? Built Puff.
From the logo, Jimmer Fredette rolls on. We now open things up to our listeners and viewers with your submitted questions and comments from social media straight to us. Jimmer, I have fully caffeinated with Spilt. I have also added some sustenance with our Built Puff flavor of the day. Cookies and cream jam, dude.
Dang,
Cookies and cream is the jam.
I haven't tried that one yet, but I got the peanut butter cookie chunk, and that's fire. Just to let you know.
Yeah, the cookie chunk has been my daily breakfast on the way to work.
Yeah. Big peanut butter chocolate guy over here, so.
All right. With that said, time to start us off, brother, with our first comment. Who delivers an Open Gym?
Yeah, absolutely. Our first comment comes in from ULA Ulapuaho.
It's okay. So I know this guy.
Do you know?
It's Ului Lapuaho, former offensive lineman for BYU football.
Man,
there you go.
Good. Hey, thank you, Spence, for saving me on that. So
You got it.
he's talking on Instagram, left a comment on Instagram talking about the Garrett Bowles post, speaking about his commitment to Utah. And he said he did visit us, meaning BYU, post Miami Brawl. We were doing 300 to 400 burpees for warm-ups that day. I'm like, hey, if I'm a commit and I see the coaches yelling and going and after you at 300 to 400 burpees for a warm-up, I'm not committing. I don't care what happens. I hate burpees. I can't even do 10 of them without, being super upset with anybody that's making me doing them. So that's absolutely, for me, that probably would have been like, all right, yeah, I'm done. So
That is hilarious.
makes a lot of sense now.
Garrett, welcome to your
Makes a lot of
recruiting
sense.
trip.
Yeah, here you
Here's
go.
our team. All they do is run and throw up because they got in trouble.
Good times.
That's very funny. And Louis has a fantastic personality, if you couldn't tell based on that commentary. What a great dude. All right, our next entry is our built question of the week and comes from at James Havocan 8302 on YouTube, discussing my grammar pet peeve of the week, saying, and I quote, "Great interview. Thanks, Spence, for the GPP, as he calls it, grammar
I like
pet peeve
that.
of the week.
I like
I
that.
feel just as strongly as you do about proper grammar and spelling. This should be a part of everyone's lifelong pursuit of learning. Keep it up." End quote.
Man, you need to stop. We need to stop this, right? Everyone needs to stop making your head bigger about this grammar pet peeve of the week. Everyone loves it. Everyone loves it, Spence.
We will not stop, Jimmer. In fact, we're going to do it right now. Rolling out grammar pet peeve of the week.
Let's go. Let's go. Oh, boy.
This centers on a personal experience that I had to endure this week, Jimmer, late in my work week. And a shout out to all social media contributors in whatever businesses you work in. But my friends, when you are sending out social posts that represent a company or business or show, it is imperative, absolutely imperative, that you spell check, you grammar check, you double check everything before you send it out. And especially if my face is attached to those words. So, not calling anyone out by name individually, but the following post showed up late in the work week. Speaking about a BYU team, because that's what I do on the daily at BYU Sports Nation, there was a quote from one of the athletes where she said, "We feel like we are capable of more and doing something special." Okay, great in and of itself. The post said, "We feel like we're cabal of more." Okay, one, you spelled capable wrong. You spelled it cabally. Okay, so that's not even grammar. That's just spelling.
Kabbalah.
But the grammar pet peeve of the week is the difference between we're and were. We apostrophe RE means we are. So, my friends, when you are posting on social media and you are quoting people, you have to get your grammar right. We feel like we are capable of more. We apostrophe RE. Very different than were. That's like saying Jimmer and I were talking about grammar, and we're trying to fix everything about it with things like that. That is my grammar pet peeve of the week. Don't put my picture out there with bad grammar. And also,
I love
kids,
that.
punctuate your sentences. Put periods at the end of your freaking sentences.
We got two. We got two for the week. Oh, my goodness. Absolutely. Just quality stuff. I love when you go after people on Twitter sometimes. I guess it's X. Sorry. X.
Listen, we're, as in we are, building great speakers of the English language as well. Not were, okay? It's not we're building, okay? We are building. If you would like to submit more potential grammar pet peeves of the week, or questions for me, Jimmer, or our guests on the next show. Follow us at JimmerFTL on YouTube, Instagram, X, and TikTok. 3x3 update is next as we close out an impassioned episode of this show. It's been fantastic. When From the Logo with Jimmer Fredette, powered by Built, continues.
The saying goes, you shouldn't cry over spilled milk. But what if the milk you spill is spilt milk? Your favorite treat ruined by your clumsiness. And now those 20 delicious grams of day-powering protein and that perfect boost of caffeine are everywhere but where they should be. Your mouth. So cry over your spilt, turn on your sad sprinklers, then stand tall and buy a fresh spilt at a retailer near you. Spilt. Milk worth crying over.
From the Logo, amidst March, into the final quarter of this show with our USA Basketball 3x3 update presented by Wilner and O'Reilly. Pretty simple. Just call Kelly at Wilner and O'Reilly, an immigration law expert and friend of the show. WilnerO'Reilly.com. Let's do this, GM Jimmer. Got the latest on the drive to gold in 2028 from your 3x3 teams across the globe, plus any little nuanced aspect of the game he wants to share today. Jimmer, let's do this quick and efficient and to the point. What do you got for us today?
We're going to talk about the Champions Cup roster. We're going to finally let you know who that is, and
Let's
I'll talk a little
go.
bit about each, okay? So I'm excited to talk about these guys. So we got first up James Parrott. James Parrott's been on Team Miami. He's been playing 3x3 for several years now. One of the most unbelievable athletes I've ever seen in my entire life. This kid is insane dunker. Insane. He's an NAIA legend. He was someone who did not get big-time recruits. Like, he was not one of those guys. He was a late bloomer. You need to look him up on YouTube. James Parrott, NAIA, 3x3, one of the most insane guys. Super excited about him. Great athlete. He's part of this. He's a part of the team. We have Justin Pierce, who is a part of the team. He has a brother that's named Caden Pierce that is also on the team. We got brothers on the team this year. Brothers on the team. Caden and Justin. So Justin played at North Carolina. Really great basketball player. Been playing 3x3 for the last year or so. About 6'6" guard, can shoot it, can do everything. Caden is an interesting guy. He just actually committed to Purdue. He played at Princeton for 3 years, and then he was going to transfer, but he wanted to graduate from Princeton. So he didn't play this year college basketball. He's been in the portal. So he decided that he was going to go. He's an incredible basketball player, was player of the year in the Ivy League last year. Didn't play this year. Now he's committed to Purdue to play. And yeah, he's great. Last but not least, Riley Batten. Riley Batten actually played at the University of Utah. He's about 26, 27 years old. He is 6'8", big dude, can shoot it, defend, do all different types of things, super strong. Played 3x3 for the first time last year with Team LA. Now he's moving over to USA Basketball, and I am excited about Riley. Even though he's a Utah guy, we don't, hold that against him here in the context of USA Basketball. And that's the team this year. Those 4 guys are going to be competing for the Champions Cup medal in Thailand. So pumped about it. Can't wait to get out there and see it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This Champions Cup roster, all of these guys, because they played at such a high level, they're all legitimately in play potentially to be on the Olympic roster, correct? Or is that too much of a stretch?
No, they all are going to be in the pool. They're all going to be in the pool. We'll probably have 15 to 20 guys in that pool of who we're going to choose from. These guys are going to be in that pool to see how we can do it. And we're really trying to consider who we're ready to seed for the World Cup this year too, right? So they're going to be in that pool as well. So I'm excited to get these guys going, and it should be a lot of fun.
Champions Cup, the 3x3 update. Outstanding. Breaking news of sorts from Jimmer Fredette as that roster is set. We wish the best of luck to Jimmer and his team as they go international and play some high-level basketball. All right. Any final thought from you, brother, before we say goodbye?
No, thanks to Thurl. Such a great conversion story. The guy is amazing. Loved hearing about a Cinderella story. Thanks for coming on. Everyone, thank you for subscribing and listening. Keep up the good work. We'll be here next week.
Some reminders as we say goodbye. 1, drive aggressively, especially if you're Jimmer.
Never.
Continue to shoot your shots in life because we are built for more. We'll see you next time.